guys, so the reason that I have been rotating through all of the enrichment classes to give this presentation is that you know that school safety is a really big deal to us right now. In fact, you guys sat through a presentation by Jesus Hermosa where he explained a lot of the things you need to know how to do in the event that we were to have some type of traumatic, lockdown of some sort due to an actual threat. So as we've considered things like locking doors and how we go through the halls during the passing periods and all these different safety protocols, one of the things that I had felt strong we need to talk about is how and what you guys need to know how to do regarding the way that you feel. If you guys can start to manage your feelings and choose successful behaviors, then we're going to have a school that's a lot more safe. And so today, just like in science or in your math class, how your teachers can put all kinds of formulas and diagrams and scientific methods and laws onto the board for you to learn, I'm going to draw something up there today that has to do with how you're feeling and the behaviors that you choose, and then we'll run through some examples. And I really do believe that if you guys can take some of these concepts and apply them with how you're dealing with your friends, how you're dealing with people who aren't your friends, how you're dealing with your family, and with your teachers and all those situations, that you're going to figure out some really successful strategies. Before I start drawing stuff on the board, I want to tell you that when I was around 13 years old, I can remember clearly sitting in a class with a kid next to me, and my thought was, why is he such an idiot? Why does he interrupt this class? Why is he late to class every time? Why doesn't he ever turn anything in? Why is he such a jerk to everybody? And I just couldn't figure out how that was working for him, and it was very frustrating to me. And one thing that I started to learn about people since then is that what my family expected from me in education was a lot different than what other people's families were expecting from them. The rules for me, when I came home from school, we didn't watch TV, we didn't play with friends, we didn't do anything until our homework was done. There was a place set aside, that's where we sat, that's where we did homework. If we had questions, our parents helped us. If we needed supplies for a project, they made sure we had them. Getting good grades and being successful at school was definitely a key definer of my family. And so when I went to school, it mattered to me. I wanted to do good. I knew I wasn't going to have any privileges or any kind of rewards if I didn't do well in school. But there are some families who that is not their expectation. In some families, education is not a #1 priority. In fact, for some families, they don't really care about it at all. And so for that child to be motivated, it has to come from within them, because they don't have a place to do their homework, and their parents aren't helping them buy their supplies. They might not even be living with their parents. I'm willing to bet that in this very room, there are people, because I know there's many in this school, but that in this very room, there are people who have never even had a bedroom or a bed to themselves. You would be surprised at how many kids that attend this district sleep on a floor, sleep on a couch, and don't even have their own bedroom. And their families are trying very hard to do the best they can, but right now, they don't have a lot of energy to put towards education. So that said, I still think the kid sitting next to me in class in junior high should have been motivated to do better in school. It wasn't helping him to be so defiant. And there are kids in this building who, even though their families aren't supporting them through education, they're determined to do well at school because they know it's going to make a difference. But I want you to just keep in mind that when you're frustrated or annoyed with someone, thinking, why aren't they trying harder? You probably have no clue what their experience is. And they probably have no clue what yours is. So you need to leave that judgment at the door and don't come into school and think you have everybody else figured out, because you don't. And that's the first thing we can do to make our school a safer place, is stop assuming that everybody else has the same life you do. Because they don't. It's very different. All right, now I'm going to put some stuff on the board. So every day you guys have all kinds of interactions and events happening all day long. Waking up in the morning is an event. Talking to your mom when she wakes you up in the morning is an interaction. And I'm sure you're all so sweet and nice to your mom when she wakes you up in the morning. That's an event and an interaction. Walking through the hallways between classes, that's an event and an interaction because you're interacting with people. Driving from point A to point B, those are events, interactions. They're happening all day, every day. Sometimes you're having an interaction with yourself because you're talking to yourself. You're sending yourself messages. You're saying, I can't do this. I'm such a loser. This is so stupid. I failed again. Or you're saying, I got this. I can do this. I'm going to try again. Those are events and interactions, and they're happening all day long. And when they happen, they stir feelings inside of us. Certain events cause certain feelings for you, and those exact same events might cause a very different feeling for somebody else. Some of you love music, and you love to perform music. So performing music is a very exciting, satisfying feeling to you. Others of you, the thought of standing up and singing in front of people is a very petrifying, fearful feeling. So it's the same event, but it might cause different feelings depending on how we're designed, how we're wired. But where we get to take charge of this whole thing is that we choose our behaviors. Behaviors do not just happen. So the key word here is that you get to choose your behaviors. And when you choose a behavior, you're choosing your words, your actions, and your attitudes. Those are all types of behaviors. Depending which words, actions, or attitudes you choose, you will head down either a path that's successful or you will head down a path that's more destructive. And once you engage in one of these paths, it's going to create a loop. It's going to start creating a cycle, a pattern, a loop. So let me give you an example. Your mom comes in to wake you up in the morning. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, it cannot possibly be time to do this all over again. So you're not waking up with the super good vibe, you kind of have the grumpy vibe going. But you get to choose, what are you going to say to your mom? What are you going to do? What attitudes are you going to have? So some of you, a very small number of you, are going to cheerfully get out of bed and be like, I got this. I'm going to greet the day, and you just are going to have really good energy. True, there are a few of you that do that. You know you're out there. Most of you are going to have to lay there for a second and kind of think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Some people are going to say, I don't want to go to school today. Or they're going to start complaining, I don't feel good. And they're going to try something. And so we're choosing our words, actions, and attitudes, and we're either heading down success or we're heading destructive. Say you do the fakey sick deal. At first, your mom buys into it, and you were like, yes, I get to stay home. But then as you lay there in bed, and you actually do start to feel better, and your body starts to wake up, you think about that class that you're already failing. And you think about how you're not going to get to see any of your friends that day. And you think about how you had an event, a sporting event, but because you missed school, you don't get to participate in that event. So now, the grumpy feeling when you woke up, because of the behaviors you've chosen, that grumpy feeling has sunken even lower. And you have created a very vicious cycle, because then you're going to choose another behavior, and it's likely it's going to continue this cycle. Not necessarily, but likely. So the flip side, you kind of felt grumpy, but you laid there in bed and you thought about, oh, I do need to remake that test up, and oh, I do want to see my friends, and I have that game today. I need to just get going with my day. As soon as I have a little breakfast and I'm not so hangry, this will be all right. So you get up, And pretty soon you're going, and then you're starting to improve that mood. It's lifting, it's in a better place, and it sets the stage for a cycle of better choice making. So we could take any event or interaction, anything that's happening in your day, and we could chart it out, and we could go, did you end up on a destructive loop, or did you end up on a successful loop? And we could figure out what's working for you and what's not working for you. If you end up in the office regularly, if you end up with lunch detentions or suspensions, or you get grounded from things from your family regularly, there is a good chance that you're kind of stuck in this loop. And so you need to be aware of that, because what can happen is once you get here and you're looping and looping and looping, you have the ability to break the loop. Intentionally put some energy towards it and break this loop so that you end up coming this way. And I'll give you a few tips on how you can start to break the loop, and so that you break the pattern so that you end up on the other side. So you've got to pay attention to the interactions and events that are not working out for you. There are certain events and interactions that you can know trigger you. Yes, trigger, I know. Because that is a for real word that actually means something important if you want to pay attention to what it means. So triggers are when certain things that really tend to aggravate you happen. You start to pay attention to that. This is an event that triggers me. This is where I find myself getting really worked up. So it's kind of like a warning. And then it's an indicator that you're about to have some feelings that are your warning feelings. If you had a personal warning response system, you know, like on the radio when it like makes that loud beeping sound and it tells you about a flash flood warning, something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about? So if your body was capable of giving you a warning like that, to say, ooh, warning, you're about to lose your mind, warning, pay attention, then these are the feelings it would be warning you about. When you're feeling angry, hurt, hopeless, helpless, fear, resentment. There's so many more, but these are the ones that you got to pay attention to. These ones are warning feelings. When those feelings are stirring up inside of you, there's something happening to you biologically that's a little bit crazy. Let me explain it to you. When we make decisions, we make those decisions with the front part of our brain. It's called the frontal cortex. And it's all plugged into the right and left hemisphere. When we are making decisions that are wise and helpful and successful choices, it's because we're all plugged in and we're accessing the top of our intelligence. We are using good information to make our decision. When we are full of strong emotion, anger, hurt, hopeless, helpless, resentful, fear, all of those kinds of feelings, we are no longer using the frontal cortex. We are using something that's at the top of the spinal column called the, I can't think of what it's called, but it's not very much more different than a reptile. You're using your reptilian brain, the brain, anyway, can't think of what it's called, but it's at the top of your spine, and it's not giving you the top of your intelligence. It's telling you to fight, to run away, or to freeze. It's referred to as fight, flight, freeze. That's all you've got going for you in those moments. You're so full of emotion that all you know how to do is either fight back, run away, or freeze. And so you've got to be able to access the front of the brain and the right and left hemisphere for you to make any kind of intelligent decision. In this moment, your first reaction is wrong. If you are operating in these feelings, then your first reaction is wrong. And a lot of people think, well, if it's my reaction, then it's got to be right. But it's not. And so what you can do, the very best thing you can do when you're feeling all of this, is choose to pause. When you practice the pause, you are automatically heading on the successful path. That is a behavior. Choosing to pause is an action. And it's an action that leads to success. So you've got to consider that. Another situation, someone sends you a really intense message on social media. In fact, it's in all caps, which that must mean they are mad. I think that's what that must mean. Or really excited, I don't know. But it's intense and it stirs all kinds of feelings in you and you're thinking, I would be such a weak person if I don't respond to this. I have to respond. And you get that fight, flight, freeze kind of energy going and you feel like you have to say something. And so most of you do. And most of you come and show it to me later. And I'm like, why do we keep doing this? But some of you are like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to pause. I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to reply right now. And then pretty soon you just decide not to reply at all. And it's not a contest, but it sort of is. And the person who doesn't reply is the winner. Because if someone's trying to engage you and wants you to fight back and they have just sent you an intense message, they are on the edge of their seat waiting for what you're going to say. They aren't throwing that out there because they want you to ignore them. They want you to say something back. So they're waiting and they're waiting and they're like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? And when they don't ever say anything back, that is a very big letdown. Because what you are telling them, if you don't reply, what you are telling them is, this doesn't really matter to me, and I'm not going to engage in this. And so you hold all of your power and keep it within yourself. When you fight back and you send those mean replies back, you are putting your power on a platter and saying, you're so important to me, you can have all my power. And they're happy to have it. So that's another example. Practice the pause and don't protect the meltdown. When you are in this meltdown fest over here, don't protect it anymore. Don't guard it. Walk away from it. Sometimes people are mean. Sometimes. But almost always, the reason our feelings get hurt are because of a miscommunication or from a pattern that we've established from the past. Miscommunications are all over the place. We talked about texting and social media and communicating that way. Did the all caps mean they were angry or did the all caps mean they were excited? I don't know. And neither do you, because texting and communications like that, you can't see their face, you can't hear their tone of voice, you can't read their body language, so you have very few cues to go off of. You're just going off what you believe you know about that person. And then however they choose to send their message. So I can choose, when I'm talking to you, I can choose to send a message to you that represents exactly how I feel. And I can choose to use words that I think adequately convey that message. And I can use the tone of voice and the volume and my body language to say what I want to say. But you still get to interpret my message. It is still received through your perspective. And so there are many instances where somebody's feelings get hurt, not because of the intended message, but because of how they perceive the message. There's so many examples of miscommunication that it's just a good one to go off of. Another common one is, she was giving me dirty looks. I know she was. Really? You know it for sure? Because I'm just saying that my face, when I'm not really thinking about it, might kind of look like I'm giving you dirty looks. And I'm not. I'm just thinking. I am solving all the world's problems in my mind when I'm not engaged in a conversation. And I have a pretty intense look on my face. And if you were to see it, you might think, Miss Montoya hates me. But I don't. I'm just thinking, and some of you have kind of a grumpy look stuck on your face too. You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean we all hate each other. It just means we're thinking. And sure, there might be a few exceptions where people are working hard to give their stare down. But for the most part, dirty looks aren't a major way that people are trying to hurt your feelings. Patterns from the past. If you have had incidents in your past, either with your family or at school, where you have felt like people were intentionally trying to get you, or they have put forth a really solid effort to be mean to you, then you start to protect yourself And the way you protect yourself is you assume that everybody's out to get you. Because if you assume everybody's out to get you, you'll see it coming and nobody's going to do it again to you like they did in the past. You're going to know. And rather than them being mean to you, you will stand up to them first. And so it's a way to try to protect yourself, but it gets a little bit tricky because you're not really protecting yourself. You're turning yourself into a victim for every single thing that happens. And you kind of wake up in the morning waiting for somebody to hurt your feelings. And I promise you, if you want to have your feelings hurt today, you will find a way for them to be hurt. If you decide that's the way you're going to look at the world, there will be opportunities for you to say, so-and-so hurt my feelings. So-and-so was out to get me. I took food to a neighbor years ago. She was a young mother and she had 2 little kids and she was very sick. And we weren't good friends, and in fact, some of the people in the neighborhood weren't the biggest fans of this particular family. I decided to take her some food, which is a big deal because I rarely cook food for my own family. But I thought, I'm going to take this lady some food and tell her I hope she feels better. Well, when she came to the door and I said, hey, I've heard you're sick and here's this meal, her response to me was, well, you just feel like everybody else, don't you? You don't think I can take care of my kids. That was her response to somebody bringing her a meal. I think she had some patterns from her past that were really taking over how she received that well-intentioned gift. Because that was not what I was doing. You would assume or expect someone that you took a meal to say, oh, this is such a lifesaver, thank you so much. I've been so sick. But she didn't have that kind of energy to bring to that. And you know, we worked through some things and we were in a good space by the time she moved, but she definitely had some patterns from the past impacting how she handled even a very nice gesture. It's kind of a control issue for them. They're trying to feel better about themselves in a very unhealthy way. It doesn't work, but they do it by being mean. And sometimes you see this through social media attacks. Sometimes it's how they're talking about you here at school. We can have issues with that as well. There are people who are really stuck in that particular space. So my question is, are we going to hold grudges against these? Which of these 3 categories are worth holding a grudge about? Who should you stay mad at? Is there any particular category up there that you think, yeah, you should stay mad about that one?
Number 3.
Number 3, why would that one be a good one to stay mad at?
I don't know, because you're just being mean. It's not a miscommunication, if you think it's not acting.
So you're saying that if someone's really out to be mean to you, you should probably stay upset with them. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think part of what triggers people's mean reaction as to acting in the way they do is, like you said, control. But when people are trying to be nice to someone and the person's just putting up a wall and being so mean back to them, eventually the person that's trying to be nice will stop and it'll become a battle between those 2 people. And in that scenario, if the person just is so sick of the attitude they're giving them, they won't feel any kindness towards them. So I kind of feel like the people that are being mean, I think it's kind of their fault, because even if it's a pattern, they just keep pushing people away. And it's like even kindness fades away eventually.
So which one are you saying you should stay mad at? 1, 2, or 3?
I'm not saying any. All I'm saying is that the reason I think when people are mean, just the way, like what you said, when the lady, she's all like, you don't think I can take care of myself. I think what happens when people act like that, the person that's trying to be nice, I think that they start creating a grudge for that person.
Okay, so let me pause you there. So this is where you have charge, because you get to choose your words, actions, and attitudes. So let me say, in that situation with the grumpy neighbor, it did kind of throw me off, and I felt a little miffed as I walked away, but I did clearly, and part of it has to do with my training, but I did recognize that it wasn't about me. And so the answer to my question of which one should you stay mad at, holding a grudge, staying mad at anybody only punishes you. Other people, if they're mean to you, they want you to be mean back. So you're giving them exactly what they want. But staying mad, holding a grudge is like taking poison and hoping the other person dies. Grudges are toxic. So forgiveness is actually the answer for all three of these. You choose to forgive because it's good for you. You don't choose to forgive because they're asking for your forgiveness, because some of them could care less if you forgive them. You forgive because it sets you free. It makes your physical body feel better to forgive. But what he was saying regarding staying mad at the mean people, that's not a forgiveness issue. Because forgiveness is free. What he's talking about, and I think what Lydia's talking about too, is a trust issue. Trust is not free, it is earned. And people that have spent a lot of energy trying to be mean to you clearly are not earning your trust. So you can come away from it and decide to forgive, but you might limit the amount of trust you have for those individuals. For example, you have a group of friends and you shared all your secrets and the things going on about your family and who you like and all this stuff. And then you find out that out of those 5 friends, 2 of them were very comfortable sharing all of your secrets with other people. So in that situation, you can choose to forgive them because that's good for you. You can even still choose to spend time around them, maybe not as much as you used to, but you are going to be very cautious with the things you tell them, because that has changed. But that's the issue. So if you're choosing to forgive is a gift you give yourself. It's not a present you give the other person. It's something you give you. And when people get older and they have chosen to stay angry and hold grudges, I truly believe there are people that have to create little charts at their house of who they're still mad at, because they're so determined to stay angry at people for things. When they've done that, you can look at their physical body and tell that their anger has impacted their body. Because our physical bodies aren't designed to hold all of that anger and animosity. So forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. I just want to share a couple of stories to finish things up. 2 of them are about my parents. So this goes back to this behavior flow chart here. When I would ride in the car with my dad, it was a very intense experience. My dad was the best driver he knew, and he knew all the rules, and people should not be in the fast lane if they were not going fast, and they should do this and they should do that, and he was very happy to point out how everybody should be driving and when they messed up. And it was kind of an intense experience, and I agreed with my dad. I would sit in the car with him and be like, that's right, get out of our way, and that's right, you shouldn't be doing that, and I would just agree with everything he said. But it was intense, and it wasn't usually like a super fun ride, but I felt like he was right. And then you contrast that with my mother, whose approach to life is just very happy. I mean, she's the person, we would be singing camp songs in the car just between the grocery store and our house. And she was just super fun and super happy driving her car. And I can remember when the difference between how my dad drives and how my mom drives became very clear to me. Because we were in our big orange old van that didn't even have seats in it except for the passenger and the driver, and no seat belts. And we're driving around, we've just been to the store, and she's on the highway, and a car pulls out in front of us, and she has to slam on her brakes, and all of her little kids come flying up because there are no seat belts, roll into the front of the car. And my mother said loudly, thank goodness we were the ones that were behind them and could stop it in time. Who says stuff like that? Like, I'm thinking, that's how you feel right now? That idiot, like, I'm thinking, where's Dad? He'd be honking his horn right now. But she was just feeling all this gratitude, everybody was okay. And I thought, wow, my parents are so different from each other. So I guarantee you, I could not quote what my father would have said if he'd been in that same experience. So that's just an example. I actually learned in that moment that even though I agreed with my dad in a lot of ways, I really wanted to be like my mom, how I drove. I really wanted that kind of energy because it was fun going places with her. It wasn't intense. It was relaxing and enjoyable. The other story is about my mom too, and this one has to do with how you guys think about each other. When I was in 6th grade, we lived in Montana, northern Montana, right on the border of Canada. And for Christmas, we got a trampoline. And this was going to be the only trampoline in this small mountain town. Nobody else had a trampoline. Well, northern Montana has a lot of snow, so there was like 3 feet of snow outside, so that trampoline was in our living room on Christmas morning, and you could like just buckle your knees a little bit and sort of jump. But we were gonna put it outside when the snow melted, and my mother told me I could have a party and invite as many kids as I wanted, but I had to invite, and she named a girl from my class, a girl who I thought was weird and strange and who I didn't like. And I thought, well, okay, I really want to have this party. And I had weeks to get to know her and to try to make things better before the party was even going to happen. And I kept coming back and telling my mom. I sat with her at lunch. She moved away. We tried to walk with her during the recess. She doesn't want to walk with us. I volunteered to be her partner. She didn't say a word to me. I just said, Mom, please don't make me invite her. She does not want to come to this party. And my mom said, Becky, friendship is free. You can just give it away, and sometimes it comes back and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just a gift you give away. And if you want to have that party, you have to invite her. And I said, all right, fine. So it was like March, and we invited her, and we put our trampoline outside, and we did not set it up with a great big guarding fence around it like how they come now. We set it up under our shed so that we could run off of the roof and get really big air. So it was a different time than what you guys have with your trampolines. But what blew my mind is the girl came to my party. She did not talk to us. She did not jump on the trampoline. She walked around our little farm property with my dogs the whole time. It was weird, but she came. We had a good time. And it was, to me, I thought, I don't even know why she came. But whatever. And when the party was over and parents were starting to pick their kids up, I had a big changing experience in my life. Because the mother of that girl came up to me, and I'd never met the mom, but I think my mom maybe knew her mom, hindsight. And this mom had tears in her eyes and said she was so excited to come to your party. She has never been invited to a party before. And I couldn't believe that she actually wanted to come to my party. You would never have thought she wanted to come to my party. The difference was I had a set of social skills where if someone invites me somewhere and I want to go, I know how to let them know I'm excited about that. She did not have those social skills. She was not able to respond to me with the same skills that I had. And so it made me realize that all these people who I thought of as kind of strange and different and weird, I really couldn't think of them like that anymore. Because it really came down to how they were different. The way they were different is they might not have the same set of skills that I had. And you guys, that's true here in our building. I started out by telling you that I want our school to be a safer place. One of the ways it's a safer place is when we stop assuming we understand everybody. When we stop assuming that because I would act a certain way, then they should act a certain way. Because you just don't know. You don't know the experiences they're having, and you don't know how their brain is all wired. And they might not be able to bring the same energy to the experience that you're bringing. So that was something that really kind of put me on this path of wanting to work with people and understand the different feelings people are having. You would think that because I can draw this all out and talk about destructive paths and successful paths and getting off of the, walking away from the meltdown and practicing the pause, you would think that I'm an expert in doing these things, right? You think, wow, I bet Ms. Montoya's behaviors are just like the best ever. And they're not. This is a process. You are going to have times where you get over here and you get stuck over here and you realize it and you go, how did I get stuck over there again? I'm tired of that. I want to be over here. And we're all doing that. Every adult for the rest of their life is going to be figuring out this same thing that I'm showing you. We don't ever get it all figured out. Because when we do figure out one particular thing, then some kind of new situation comes up and you're like, wow, I didn't ever expect that to happen, and now you're trying to figure that out. So don't be harsh on yourself or other people when they get kind of stuck. Just decide to start again. It's time to start again. It's time to walk away from this and end up over here. I could go on and on about stories that are very embarrassing where I have thrown full-on crybaby fits that you guys, if you had seen me, would think, I cannot believe we trust her with our mental health issues, because you think, she's cuckoo, and it happens. Usually it happens with my own children who should get the best that I have to offer, but I'm usually done and I just end up being a crazy lady. So that's true for all of us. I don't want you guys to think I'm telling this to you because you're kids and oh, once you're a grown-up you'll have it all figured out. We all are figuring it out. That's the message I want to tell you. And when you're working with your parents and you can identify, holy cow, my parent is stuck in this negative loop, be aware, like that's a warning too, because that means you don't want to collide with them. If they're in a really negative space, you probably shouldn't point it out to them, like don't do that. But you need to bring your chill, apologetic behavior. You just need to be like, bring the chill, because that might give them the invitation they need to simmer down. But if you bring your negative and they bring their negative, we're having a major negative fest going on. So when your parents are in that space, recognize it, go, oh, that's what she was talking about. And rather than digging your heels in and having a fight with your parents, try this. Try saying, I'm so sorry. I'm not even kidding, it works. It won't work every time, especially if they're in a super crazy space, because they need some time, but it's so much better than fighting back. Because you can be sorry, even if you don't think you're wrong, you can be sorry that the fight is happening. You can say, I'm so sorry. You guys know my son Sam, and I have to tell you something kind of cool about Sam. Well, here's the not cool part. Sam breaks a lot of rules. Like, he's a naughty kid, and I'm constantly going, I cannot believe he's breaking another rule. But the good news is, Sam is really good at saying sorry. Really good at it. I don't think I've ever had a kid who's as good at it as Sam is. So when he realizes he's done something wrong, he just, like a little, kind of like a puppy dog, just comes up and he's like, I'm so sorry, Mom. And you know what that does to me? I am putty in his hands. It works so good. I'm like, oh, Sam, it's all right. Let's figure it out. We'll try again. But if he were to come to me and be like, so what that I broke that rule? I don't care. That's a stupid rule. You know how I would get? Because I can play that game too. And I am always the winner in my house at that game. But he doesn't do that. He comes to me so sorry. So that is something that my sister noticed it. We were on vacation. And my sister was like, she has a son the same age who does more of that second kind of response, like, whatever, that's dumb. And she saw how Sam was so good at being sorry, and she's like, Sam, why are you so good at being sorry? And his answer was, because I mess up a lot. He does mess up a lot. So I'm just encouraging you guys, that's a good strategy with your teachers, with your parents. It's okay right now. Believe it or not, this might seem mean, but we are not equals with you right now. We are your superiors. We are in charge of you. This is not an equal playground right now. Right now, we're the ones making big decisions for you, and it's really good if you bring the apology game into that conversation. We can sort it out later. But in that heated moment, say you're sorry, rather than trying to throw out all the reasons you need to defend yourself, because that is really just going to make it worse. All right, well, I thank you guys for your time. Any questions on this? Teachers, anything you need to add?